Hi guys, Happy New Year! In this lesson we are going to continue learning a little bit about the French verbs, and in this video we are going to delve into the verbs of the second group, and those are most of the verbs that end with IR. So you have the verb in its infinitive form, and if that verb ends with IR, chances are that it's a verb that belongs to the second group of verbs. Now we must learn how to conjugate those verbs. We already learned how to conjugate the verbs of the first group. Remember the verbs that ended with ER? Now we are going to learn the conjugation of the verbs of the second group, which are most of the verbs that end with IR. Now the same principles of conjugation apply here. Do you remember how you conjugated the last time? You took the verb in its infinite form. What's the first thing that you did? You basically erase. Imagine that this is like a board. I'm going to use my window like a board here, okay? So you took a verb, then you erase the inflection, and you have the lexeme, or the root of the word, and then you just added the proper inflections depending on the pronoun. Here you're going to do exactly the same. So let's have our first verb of the second group. Let's conjugate choisir, which means to choose. Choisir, okay? We have the verb right there, and we must eliminate the inflection, which in this case obviously is IR. So now we are left with the lexeme, and now we need to learn the proper conjugations for the verbs of the second group. It's a different type of pattern than the verbs of the first group, and let's learn it. With je, you are going to use the inflection IS. Okay, with je, you're going to use the inflection IS. With tu, you are going to use the inflection IS, exactly the same inflection. With il and el singular, you're going to use the inflection IT. With nu, you are going to use the inflection ISSONS. A little bit long, but that's how the inflection works. With vous, you're going to use the inflection ISSEZ, and with il and el plural, you're going to use the inflection ISSENT. So those are the inflections that you must use. But how do you pronounce them? Okay, this is how you pronounce them. Je choisis, tu choisis, il, elle choisit, nous choisissons, vous choisissez, il, elle choisissent. That's how you pronounce it. If you pay attention, pretty much when it comes to je, tu, il, and elle singular, the conjugation is pretty much pronounced the same way, choisis. With nous, of course, it changes. You have to say choisissons, but don't pronounce the final S. The final S is never pronounced. Choisissons. With vous, choisissez, don't pronounce the final Z, that's never pronounced. And with il and el plural, you actually have to pronounce an S, choisis. You have to those double S, you have to pronounce one of them, choisis. Il, choisis, elle choisis. And that's pretty much the pattern of the pattern of conjugation for the verbs of the second group. Let's take another verb, finir. Okay, finir, we do the same thing, eliminate the inflection, we take the lexeme, and we add the proper inflections. Je finis, IS, tu finis, IS, il, elle finit, IT. The T is not pronounced, just the I. Il, elle finit. Nous finissons, without pronouncing the S. Vous finissez, without pronouncing the Z. Il, elle finissent, without pronouncing all that other stuff. So that is the pattern of conjugation, but unfortunately that's not all. There's a really small group of verbs belonging to the verbs of the second group that, even though they are from the second group, they are conjugated in a different way. Not really that different, but it's a different pattern of conjugation. And there are only 5 that I can recall. which are dormir, which means to sleep, partir, which means to go, to depart, sortir, which means to exit or to go out, sentir, which means to feel or to listen, and mentir, which means to lie, okay, to tell a lie. So these 5 verbs, although they end with IR, they have a different pattern of conjugation. And there's, something really different that you have to do with these verbs. For example, the way that you're going to conjugate these verbs is that, yes, you're going to, for example, with dormir, you're going to eliminate the inflection, okay, but when it comes to the conjugation of je, tu, il, and elle, you are going to eliminate the final letter of the lexeme. I repeat, when it comes to je, tu, il, and elle singular, you are going to eliminate the final letter of the lexeme. So we have dormir, we eliminate the inflection, we have dorm. So when it comes to je, tu, il, and elle, we are going to eliminate the final letter of the inflection. In this case, which one is the final letter of this inflection? The M. So let's eliminate the M when it comes to je, tu, il, and elle singular. So you need to add these following new inflections in the conjugation of these kinds of verbs. They are not really that different. In fact, you only need to eliminate the I of the other conjugations of the regular verbs. So when it comes to dormir, partir, sortir, sentir, mentir, you're going to use, with je, you're going to use the inflection S. With tu, you're going to use the inflection S, exactly the same inflection. With il and elle singular, you're going to use the inflection T. With nous, you're going to use the inflection O and S. With vous, you're going to use the inflection EZ. And with il and elle plural, you're going to use the inflection ENT. And you have to remember, you must eliminate the final letter of the lexeme when you're about to conjugate with je, tu, il, and elle singular. So for example, let's conjugate, let's say I sleep. Okay, I have dormir, I eliminate the inflection, and since it's je, I must eliminate the final letter of the lexeme, which is the M. I eliminate the M, and I add the proper inflection, which is S. Je dors. That's how you conjugate this verb. With tu, it's exactly the same thing, tu dors, because it's the same inflection. With il, exactly the same thing, but with T. Now, with nous, we are not going to eliminate the M. The M stays, okay? Because it's not je, tu, il, and elle. It's just je, tu, il, and elle singular. Nous doesn't apply here, so we stay with that M, and we just add that inflection, which is O and S. With vous, we don't eliminate anything, we just stay with D-O-R-M, and we add the proper inflection. And with il and elle plural, we stay with the M also. Remember the rule, you must eliminate the final letter of the lexeme when it comes to je, tu, il, and elle singular. Let's take another one of these 5 verbs, which is the verb partir, to go away, to depart. Partir, again, we must do exactly the same thing. Let's conjugate with je. First, we are going to take we are going to erase the inflection, and then when it comes to je, tu, il, and elle singular, we must erase the final letter of the lexeme. So with je, it's going to be je pars, okay, because we erase the T and we just added the proper inflection. With tu, exactly the same thing, tu pars. With il and elle, the same thing, but with T at the end. Now with nous, we don't need to erase the T must stay. So nous partons, vous, exactly the same thing, the T stays, vous partez, and il and elle plural, the T stays, okay, il, elle part. And if you forgot about which one the verbs that are the irregular verbs in IR are dormir, partir, sortir, sentir, mentir. Try to conjugate them on your own. You already know how to conjugate in the special way that these verbs need to be conjugated. Now, as I said in the introduction of this video, the verbs of the second group are most of the verbs that end with IR. Most of the verbs. But there are some other verbs that, despite ending in IR, have a completely different kind of conjugation. So that's why those particular verbs that end with IR are not considered verbs of the second group. They are considered verbs of the third group, and we haven't seen any of those. We are going to actually see those verbs and hopefully in the next video. But for now, these ones have been the verbs of the second group. Now you remember the conjugation of the regular verbs and the conjugation of those 5 irregular verbs, which are dormir, partir, sortir, sentir, mentir. Okay, I made a list of exercise, of conjugating exercise in Memrise, and the continuation of the course that I already did with the verbs of the first group. There's a second part. This part is now using the verbs of the second group also, the regular and the irregular, and that's going to be pretty much it for this video. See you in the next video, and Happy New Year!